Chapter 1. The eighth capsule. The cargo hauler Persephone hung in the void like some godforsaken piece of scrap. Port side in shadow at 270 below, starboard catching the feeble glow of a distant sun that looked no brighter than any other star from out here. 247 days adrift in the Kuiper belt had turned its hull into a roadmap of micro-meteorite scars and dents, its running lights blinking with the weary reluctance of a dying beacon. Here at the ragged edge of the solar system, 7 souls drifted in a rust bucket that, by some cosmic joke, bore the name of the goddess of the underworld. Sterile silence reigned in the cryo bay. 7 capsules lined the walls like sarcophagi in an ancient tomb. The soft blue glow of indicator lights created the illusion of an underwater world, calm, timeless, dead. Temperature held steady at -50, cold enough to preserve equipment, warm enough to keep the hydraulics from freezing solids. Something changed in capsule number 1. First came a spike on the brain activity monitor, a sharp peak among the flat waves of deep cryosleep. Then another, and another. Sensors registered elevated heart rate, an adrenaline surge, rapid eye movement beneath closed lids. Alexei Volkov was dreaming. In this dream, his daughter Masha stood on the shore of a frozen lake. She was 12, exactly as old as she'd been on the day of his last departure. Red hair streaming in the wind, freckles on her nose like a scattering of stars. She was shouting something, but he couldn't hear the words. He could only see her lips moving, desperation twisting her childish features. The ice beneath her feet was cracking. Black water seeped through the fissures, rising higher, higher. "Dad!" Her cry finally reached him. "Dad, they're listening. They've always been listening." The ice shattered. Masha vanished into the black water. And at that exact moment, the alarm tore through the silence of the cryo bay. Red lights flashed, in time with the wailing siren. The central console displayed priority message, code Omega, immediate awakening. Capsule number 1 hissed, venting a cloud of cryogenic gas. The lid rose slowly, revealing the man inside. Alexei Volkov, 44 years, old gray salting close-cropped hair, a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, sucked in his first ragged breath. We cycled air with a metallic bite scorched his lungs. "Son of a," he croaked, fighting to sit up. His muscles wouldn't cooperate. Felt like he'd been down not 8 months, but 8 decades. Medical gel clung to his skin in ropey strands, cold and clammy as something long dead. "Good morning, Commander Volkov," came the dispassionate voice of the ship's AI. "Emergency awakening procedure initiated. I recommend remaining in the capsule for 3 more minutes to stabilize your readings." "To hell with the readings." Volkov tumbled out of the capsule, nearly collapsing to his knees. His legs buckled, but he caught himself on the handrail. "Karen, what's the emergency?" "An Omega-level signal has been received. According to Protocol 7.3.1, any vessel within range is required to..." "I know the protocols." Volkov cut him off, wiping gel from his face. Pink streaks smeared across his palm, ruptured capillaries. Par for the course with emergency revival. Source of the signal, research station Mnemosyne. Distance, 47 astronomical units. Coordinates. Stop. Volkov froze, drops of gel still dripping down his unshaven chin. Repeat the name. Research station Mnemosyne. SETI Deep Project. Registration number. Karen, when was this station's last contact with Earth? A pause. Even for an AI, it seemed too long. August 11th, 2014. 217 years ago, the cryo bay grew colder. Or maybe it was just Volkov's imagination, and it's transmitting a signal only now. Affirmative. The signal began arriving 37 minutes ago. Automated systems classified it as Omega, based on anomalous characteristics. What kind of anomalous characteristics? The signal is being transmitted simultaneously on all known frequencies. This is technically impossible for equipment from 2014. Volkov pulled on thermal underwear, grimacing as the fabric clung to damp skin. His movements were sharp, jerky, the body language of a man woken to bad news. Begin awakening procedure for the rest of the crew and run the signal through analysis. I want to know what he didn't get to finish. A wave rolled through the cryo bay of something. Not sound, not vibration, more like a shift in the very fabric of space. As if someone had drawn a bow across the strings of reality. The indicators on the capsules flickered chaotically. For a split second, Volkov thought he saw an 8th capsule in the far corner, ancient, covered in frost. He thought he saw something stir inside. A woman's silhouette. But when he blinked, the vision vanished. Karen, what was that? An anomaly of undetermined nature was detected. All systems are functioning within normal parameters. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can provide with current data. The other capsules began to stir. The first to open was number 3. Medical officer Elena Voronova emerged with the grace of a cat that had been dunked in ice water. 38 years old. Premature, gray streaking through chestnut hair gathered in a practical ponytail. Sharp cheekbones and alert gray eyes marked her as a native of the northern colonies. She stood for several seconds, gripping the edge of her capsule, giving her body time to remember what gravity felt like. Medical gel dripped from her jumpsuit in fat drops, leaving sticky puddles on the deck. With practiced ease, Elena checked her own pulse, then made for the medical console, swaying slightly but sure-footed. Emergency protocol? Her voice was surprisingly steady for someone fresh out of the freezer. What's going on, Skipper? Skipper, only she called him that. The others stuck with boss or cap. Duck, a dead station came back to life, Volkov said briefly. 200 years of silence, and suddenly, Omega. Elena whistled, checking the readings on the medical console. All vitals are nominal, but she frowned. Odd. Everyone's showing elevated prefrontal activity. Like you all had very intense dreams. Nightmares, corrected a voice from capsule number 2. Maxim Semyonov, first-class pilot, crawled out with the expression of a man ready to strangle someone. Short, wiry, sporting perpetual 3-day stubble and a tattoo on his forearm. Earth's coordinates. 34 years old. 15 of them spent in the black. The hell, boss, he groaned, scrubbing gel off with a towel. We weren't supposed to thaw for another 3 months. An Omega signal overrides all schedules, Sailor, Volkov replied. Sailor, Maxim's nickname from his days on orbital tugs. Omega? Maxim rattled off a string of Martian profanity that would have made a dock worker blush. Who the hell still remembers those dinosaur protocols? Apparently, Station Nemo. Igor Lebedev stumbled over the word, climbing out of Capsule 5. My God, is it really that Mnemosyne? The communications specialist looked like a typical techie, thin, bespectacled with the long fingers of a pianist. 31 years old, a prodigy who graduated from Martian Tech at 19. On the Persephone, they just called him Hertz. Short, apt, and perfectly suited to his nervous temperament. The very same, Volkov confirmed. This is legendary. Hertz practically bounced, forgetting all about post-cryo weakness. One of the very first deep space listening posts. I wrote my goddamn thesis on it. Vanished in 2014. Everyone figured the crew bought it when life support crapped out. What was it doing out there? Anastasia Belyeva all but catapulted out of her capsule. 27 years old, chief engineer of the Persephone. Red hair. Cropped short for easy work in a spacesuit. Small, quick, with a spray of freckles and a perpetual half-smile. The crew called her Gremlin, an ironic nickname for the one person on board who could fix absolutely anything. A project to search for and catalog extraterrestrial signals, Hertz explained. But not ordinary search. They developed deep archiving technology. Theoretically, they could record not just signals, but their context. Context? Maxim looked blank. Imagine recording not just voice, but emotions, intentions, the entire cultural backdrop. Complete preservation of information. You can't record what you don't understand, objected Andrei Krylov, finally leaving his capsule. The team's biologist, 39 years old, tall, gangly, with a perpetually worried expression. They'd called him Darwin at university, and the nickname stuck. Right now, he looked even more worried than usual. And alien intelligence is, by definition, incomprehensible. He continued polishing his glasses. That flies in the face of basic information theory. Well, they didn't think so 200 years ago. Hertz shrugged. Dmitry Sokolov was the last to awaken. 22 years old, universal, trainee, first long-haul mission. The kid practically fell out of his capsule, pale as a sheet. Shit, he breathed, grabbing the wall for support. Sorry, I was dreaming. Language, cadet, Maxim chided. Though there wasn't much heat in it, the nickname had stuck to Dima from day one. A 22-year-old, greenhorn surrounded by grizzled spacers, looked exactly like a cadet among officers. What were you dreaming? Elena asked, approaching with her medical scanner. Voices. Thousands of voices. They were all speaking at once, but in different languages. And I understood them. All of them at once. Elena shone a penlight in his eyes. Pupils dilated but responsive. Post-cryo disorientation. Perfectly normal. It'll pass. It started before I woke up. Dmitry shook his head stubbornly. I remember the moment when the cold of cryo-sleep started to recede. But the voices were already there. They'd been sounding for a long time. A very long time. All right. Volkov clapped his hands, getting everyone's attention. Everyone to the showers, then to the mess hall. Briefing in 20 minutes. Hertz, can you find out anything about the signal in that time? I'll try, boss. Gremlin, check the systems. After an awakening like that, we might have blown some fuses. On it. Darwin, Doc. Full medical exam for the whole crew after the briefing. Sailor. I know. Check engines and navigation. And coffee. Buckets of it. That's above my pay grade. Maxim grumbled, but he was already moving. The crew dispersed, leaving Volkov alone in the cryo bay. He looked around once more. 7 capsules. Empty. Lids open. Only 7. No, 8. Karen, he called. Show me the recording from the moment of the anomaly. An image of the cryo bay appeared on the nearest screen. Timestamp, 5 minutes ago. Volkov watched himself pulling on underwear. Then, the wave of distortion. For a split second, the image doubling, tripling, stop. Enhance Sector D7, the far corner of the bay. At the moment of distortion, something definitely appeared there. Blurry, indistinct, but unmistakably Capsule. An old model, the kind used on the first interplanetary voyages. For an instant in the dim light, he thought he saw something move inside. A woman's silhouette? But when he blinked, the vision vanished. Analysis. Possible explanation. Light refraction through cryogenic gas particles, creating an optical dash. Jaren, don't give me that crap. You can see it's an object. I see an anomaly that cannot exist in this point of space-time. Volkov swore. Even the AI was starting to speak in riddles. The showers on the Persephone were cramped, 2 meters by 2, with strict water rationing. But after cryosleep, even this tiny stall felt like paradise. Hot water washed away the remaining gel, and with it, the remnants of the nightmare. Almost Masha on the ice. They're listening, Dad. They've always been listening. Volkov shook his head, banishing the vision. Just a dream. Just synapses, overloaded from long sleep, producing random images. Nothing more. But then why had everyone had nightmares? The mess hall of the Persephone was the heart of the ship. 8 square meters wedged between the cargo hold and crew quarters. A table bolted to mag clamps, synth leather seats worn smooth by years of use. On the bulkheads, photos from past runs, a yellowed certificate from the Persephone's maiden voyage, a faded poster of Earth. The crew filtered in 5 minutes early. Everyone had cleaned up, jumpsuits zipped, hair tamed, faces scrubbed. Only their eyes gave them away. Maxim was pouring coffee, bitter as regret, with that unmistakable synth chem aftertaste. But after cryo, even this glorified sludge beat any medical stimulant, hands down. So, Volkov began once everyone was seated. Here's the situation. 52 minutes ago, we received an Omega-level signal from Station Mnemosyne. For those who've forgotten their history, it's a SETI research station, launched in 2138. Last contact, 2140. Radio silence since then. 217 years, Hertz added. I dug up what I could. Crew of 12, top specialists of their day. The station had cutting-edge tech for its time, which should have failed long ago, Darwin noted. Even with redundant systems, even with autonomous repair drones, 200 years is too much. Agreed, Volkov nodded. But the fact remains, the station is transmitting. Hertz, the communications specialist, adjusted his glasses and activated the holographic projector. A visualization of the signal appeared above the table, a complex three-dimensional structure of waves and pulses. This doesn't match anything in our protocols, he began. The signal is coming through on all frequencies simultaneously, from ultra-long waves to gamma range. That's technically impossible for 2140 equipment. Hell, it's impossible even for our equipment. Maybe they upgraded something? Gremlin suggested. Over 200 years? Without supplies from Earth? Hertz shook his head. But that's not all. Look, he enlarged part of the signal. Among the chaotic waves, a structure emerged. Mathematical sequences, repeating patterns, Fibonacci numbers, prime numbers, Planck's constant. Classic package for establishing contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. But between them, this, another enlargement. Between the familiar sequences wound strange patterns, not quite mathematics, not quite music. Jaren classifies this as data of unknown type. Hertz continued, but I think it's a language, or an attempt to create a universal language. Whose language? Volkov asked. That's the question. Maybe the station crew developed a new communication protocol. Or maybe he hesitated. Say it. Maybe they actually found something, someone, and now they're transmitting their message. Silence hung over the mess hall. Only the drone of life support reminded them they were still alive, still breathing canned air inside a tin coffin drifting through the void. There's something else, Cadet began hesitantly. This will sound strange, but when I was coming out of cryo-sleep, my hands moved on their own. I was drawing something with my finger on the capsule lid. In the condensation, he pulled out his personal tablet, showed a photo, blurry lines on fogged metal. Looks like scribbles, Sailor noted. I thought so too. But then Hertz showed part of the decoded signal, and Cadet turned the tablet. Look, here's an enlarged fragment of my scribbles. And here's a symbol from the signal. Similar, right? Volkov squinted. The resemblance was there, but distant, like a child's drawing of a house compared to an architect's blueprint. Coincidence, he said, but uncertainly. Maybe, probably. It's just... Cadet rubbed his temples. I have this feeling like I'm trying to remember something important, but it keeps slipping away. Like a word on the tip of your tongue. Doc? Volkov turned to the medic. Elena studied her scanner readings. Brain activity is elevated in all crew members, especially in areas responsible for language processing and pattern recognition. Whatever. That station is transmitting. It's affecting us on a neurological level. Affecting or attacking, Darwin clarified. Can't say yet. But it's definitely not a natural process. Volkov stood, paced the cramped space. 7 pairs of eyes followed him. Options, he said finally. First, we ignore the signal. Continue our route. Pass the information up the chain. Let them figure it out. That's a violation of Omega Protocol, Hertz reminded him. The protocol is 200 years old. Maybe it's time to revise it. Volkov massaged the bridge of his nose. All right, second option. We fly to the station, conduct reconnaissance. Distance, 47 AU, Sailor answered. At maximum thrust, 18 hours, but we'll have to burn fuel that's meant for braking at Eris. Then we'll sail home on solar winds, Volkov shrugged. Third option. We send a reconnaissance drone. Stay at a safe distance ourselves. All we've got are repair drones, Gremlin reminded him. Max range, 8,000 clicks. Then that leaves the first 2. Vote? Since when is this a democracy, boss? Maxim smirked. You're the skipper. Your call, but I want to hear opinions. Go, Gremlin said without hesitation. This is the find of the century, a station running on autopilot for 200 years. Even if nobody's home, the tech alone is priceless. Don't go, Darwin countered. Way too many unknowns. This signal, these dreams. Something's fundamentally off here. I say go, Hertz said. But we take every precaution in the book. No. Docking until we're damn sure it's safe. Against, Sailor voted. Got a bad feeling in my gut, and I've learned to trust my gut. 4, Cadet said quietly. Those voices, they're not hostile. They just want to be heard. How do you know? Volkov asked. I don't know. I feel it. Doc thought it over. No medical reason to say no, but the situation is anomalous. I abstain. 3-4. 2 against. 1 abstention. Volkov nodded. Motion carried. We go. And rightly so. Ignoring an Omega isn't just a violation, it's a crime. But no contact without my direct order. We approach, scan, assess the situation. If anything goes wrong, full speed away from the station. Understood. Copy that, came the ragged chorus. Sailor, calculate the course. Minimum time, but with fuel reserves for exercise retreat. Gremlin, all systems to maximum readiness. Especially shields. Who knows what's out there? What are we defending against? Gremlin clarified. Electromagnetic anomalies, gravitational distortions, or whatever else a station might generate after 200 years. Hertz, continue analyzing the signal. What should I do? Cadet asked. Volkov looked at him. The kid was clearly nervous, but trying not to show it. You'll keep the log, detailed. Everything you see, hear, feel, write it down. And those symbols. Try to remember more. Yes, boss. And one more thing. Everyone sleeps in shifts. Minimum 2 on watch at all times. Doc will make a schedule accounting for residual fatigue after cryosleep. Questions? 1, said Darwin. And since we're talking about coincidences, boss, that last container we were told to take, why was it delivered under guard? What container? Hertz perked up. X-77, Alita Industries. Valuable cargo, they said, but armed guards for archival equipment. Darwin shook his head. 30 runs I've done. Never seen that before. Alita built Mnemosyne. Doc added quietly. Everyone looked at Volkov. He was silent, remembering the strange haste. During loading, the sealed documents, the insistent demands not to open the container until arrival. Damn, he swore. Gremlin, sailor, with me to the cargo bay, now. Everyone else, prepare systems for departure, but don't move without my order. Hertz, continue signal analysis. Doc, monitor crew status. If anything goes wrong. Got it, boss. Hertz nodded. We'll be in touch. Volkov stood, but Elena caught his eye. A silent question in her gaze. He shook his head almost imperceptibly. We'll talk later. The walk to the cargo bay took 3 minutes. 3 minutes during which Volkov cursed himself for his blindness. A container marked with the corporation that built the missing station. Guards at loading. A ban on opening. Boss, why so grim? Gremlin asked, scurrying alongside. Think there's something dangerous in there? Don't know. But out here there's no such thing as coincidence. You're telling me, Sailor agreed. Had a run on the Variag once. Similar deal. Hush-hush cargo, armed escort, the whole 9 yards. Turned out to be samples from Europa. Damn near infected the whole crew. Don't jinx it, Gremlin muttered. The cargo bay greeted them with cold and gloom. The running lights of containers blinked in a checkerboard pattern, creating the illusion of movement in motionless space. Container X-77 stood in the far corner. A standard 20-cubic module, unremarkable except for the Alita Industries corporate logo. There she is, the beauty. Sailor let out a low whistle. Looks ordinary enough. But those locks, he pointed at the locking mechanisms. Besides standard magnetic fasteners, the container was equipped with biometric scanners and something resembling a quantum lock. Technology usually reserved for the most valuable cargo. Gremlin, can you crack it? I can try. She was already pulling out tools. But if there's anti-tamper protection,